2022. Welcome everybody. Saying that, I have my binder here, all our agenda packages, we're ready to go. Okay, so I'll take an approval for the agenda. We have a pinked item, late correspondence for Bev Bacon to be added. With that, I'll take a motion to amend the agenda to include the pink item. If there's nothing else, go ahead. So moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great, thank you. We don't have any public presentations tonight, but public participation. Does anybody wish to speak to council? If so, stand up, state your name and your street, or you can say community member as well.
Good evening. Bonnie Boover, Neil Road. This is in regards to the 112-acre bufferland. And at the November 21st meeting, Councillor Gray mentioned that the opinion survey has been completed. More input is needed from the nearby residents and then from the wider community. Mayor Little advised that there is an upcoming site visit with Metchosin councillors as well as Langford councillors. Councillor Gray advised that he was having a meeting on November 22nd with the planner in this regard. My question tonight is there any known timeline for the next steps on this topic? I totally understand that this new council has so many important issues on their agenda and just wondered when this topic appears on their strategic plan for accomplishing their goals. May I suggest step one in this process is to formally squash the sale of the CRD. It'll just alleviate the feelings of the nearby neighbors. I think we need to keep our Metchosin lands in Metchosin. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Does anybody want to address this right off the bat, or would you like more information? Go ahead.
Thanks, Bonnie. I met the planner and we looked through the survey and the survey results, and I've been talking to people, our own interim CAO and our engineer. I've talked to councillors in Langford. I'm just chipping away at things. I'm meeting with the CRD shortly. So I'll bring things together, and at the Environment and Planning Committee on December 15th, we'll bring forward some ideas about where we go next.
Thank you.
Okay, also in saying that, I have a meeting scheduled with Stephen Henderson with the CRD, not to discuss potential sale, to discuss the background of the sale so we can move forward, but not to discuss the sale. And also we have, through staff, reached out to Langford Council to set up a joint site visit for the bufferlands and an eagle view of the bufferlands, and that's in process. We don't have a date just yet.
I'm so impressed. Thank you.
Say that again, Bonnie?
I'm so impressed. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We should probably coordinate our meetings, Mayor Little. That would be a good idea.
Which meetings?
If you're meeting with the CRD, I'm setting up to meet with the CRD for the Environment Standing Committee to address the questions around the bufferlands. So I'm just saying, if you're also meeting, we don't want to get our wires crossed, and so it would be good to coordinate ourselves in terms of the meetings that we're holding with the CRD or others around the bufferland. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks very much. We'll coordinate that. Okay, moving on. Does anybody else wish to speak at public participation? Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Rick Perron, chosen resident. There's a couple people in this room who got caught on video dancing and singing in public. Oh. And it made the front page of the Saanich News. It was fun to see. Anyways, that's a minor thing. So I'm up here to talk about the...
was that members of council that... was that me? In the summer?
Were you there?
In the summer at the Interdisciplinary Action Committee on Disability Issues?
No.
No?
You could take credit for it though, but this was in the past week, I think. Yeah. It was to do with elders for ancient trees. And they were in the Bay Center singing and dancing.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
They did such a good job. It was really well choreographed. Yeah, so I'm not sure of the date, but it was on today's front page in video. I don't know how they do that, but Anyway, I'm here about the Trans Mountain Pipeline. The Condition 35. Condition 35 is about the characteristics of dilbit bitumen in the ocean. And you, in front of you, I believe, I'll have it as part of your agenda about what MEASC has provided for information. And Gary's done a lot of work, Gary Fletcher, done an amazing job. So this document, coming out of MEASC, I'd really like to see Mayor and Council to not only support it, because supporting it means it's another committee that has brought it to the table, but for Mayor and Council to actually own it. Mm-hmm. Because I think it will have a lot more power to the public to be able to say that it's not just from one subcommittee, but from everybody responsible in politics here, in government here. Okay. And it would be nice to see that go forward. Number 2 is this condition number 35. We get it, I believe, because we're a coastal community, but I'm hoping all the other coastal communities get this as well, including First Nations. I believe that might be the case. I'm not sure how any of the other communities are reacting on it, if they've in fact put it in agendas, if they're doing anything with it, or thanking TMX for supplying the information. So with that, we have got an excellent 13-page letter that you could actually use to send out to other communities to say, listen, are you doing anything about it? Here's what we've done. Do you want to help us support this issue? And I think it would show leadership in that way to move this forward. And it's such an important issue. So, our tanker traffic is going to change from 7 boats to 50 boats a day, 47 boats a day or something. It's quite a large amount, which brings me to the third point. So if there is an accident, what's going to happen is that accidents happen in high seas. And as you know, high seas, according to this document, it can't be protected by those that are going to respond to it. And so high seas are going to wash the oil right over the floats that are going to stop it from traveling. It's definitely going to travel either over or under. And the longer it's in the water, the more it sinks. And the interesting thing about this TMX document is that it states that they did all their testing in freshwater. And so they're really kind of unclear how it's going to work out in the ocean, which is much different. So I guess oil floats on freshwater very nicely, but in salt it will have a different substance. Right. The paper also, condition 35, probably one of 200 conditions or something. Not all of them have been approved. I believe something like 14 or 23, don't quote me on this, have been denied as appropriate for TMX to go ahead with. But this is a paper that it's called white paper. It's been just circulated within. It hasn't got any peer reviews, meaning it hasn't gone out to the public to be scientifically proven. So we should, and this is, I believe, in this document provided by Gary too. So this is something that would be nice to have science verify their results, or at least do what they need to do to work with it. Now, WCMRC, that's West Coast Marine Response Commission. They have been paid, I think, $2 million to do don't quote me on 2 million, but I think that's what it is, to do their part of the research along the coastline. So I think they did a presentation here in Metchosin somewhere between 15 to 22 years ago, which I wasn't a part of. And I believe the chair at the time for MEASC may not have been here either. But this was shown, Andy brought it up about a year ago. He showed us the way it's been charted out with the different coastlines that WCMRC is suggesting they protect. And so along the Metchosin coast, they've only protected certain key points, which is Whitty's Lagoon, Whitty's Beach, and a couple other points, but not the entire coastline. And I would like to see our entire coastline protected, not just certain portions of it. And I would imagine from their point of view, it's a matter of protecting the key areas first, but I didn't see it as being first. I kind of saw it as that's the only response they're going to take, is to those key areas. And I believe Tina's working on it to get another workshop by WCMRC to come to Metchosin ASAP. Perhaps this spring would be good. One final point. Is my 15 minutes up yet?
Almost.
Oh yeah, that we're doing a lot of stuff outside of what PINA sustainability is doing for us. Mm-hmm. They're looking at certain aspects in which we can help climate action. And I think all the climate action parts that PINA is not responsible doing within our community, that we should keep track of everything. We should document everything that we can use as further documentation to say, look what we're doing. We're really on the ball here. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you for those 6 points, Rick. Just a comment about the letter that was on here, that this was a letter that was drafted by staff. It's put on the agenda so that everybody at the table has an opportunity to add to that, and there are members that do want to add to that, so you'll see that later on. But thanks for those
Great.
6 points.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? No? I have a new microphone, so if I push you out to Australia, let me know if I'm too close. Go ahead.
Sure, thanks, Rick. I'll just say the WCMRC group, interestingly, seemed reluctant to come back in their correspondence with us, but in fact they had offered to do so, and we have some messages for them, don't we? So we're looking forward to that. It's a question of settling on a date that will be convenient, so we'll talk about it at MEASC and then back to council again. And then as regards sharing with other districts, I'll mention it a little bit later, but we have previously been involved in sharing our position with other districts, and I think that sounds like a great idea.
And if I may again, Colwood is right next door, and they've got a beautiful lagoon that goes in there, and they certainly need protection. There's a lot of coastal traffic. There's a lot of coastal traffic that comes up that way, right? They're the closest attached, and I'd like to see Colwood involved with it. Colwood and Esquimalt, right? They should definitely be part of that.
Okay. Thank you, Rick. Anybody else? Okay. If not, we'll move on to the rest of the agenda for the council meeting. Okay, number 4, this is on page 5 of your agenda package, adoption of the minutes. This is for council meeting November 14th, 2022, the minutes. Go ahead.
I would move adoption of the minutes from November 14th, 2022.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The special council meeting for November 26th.
Move adoption.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion. Not, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we've got some receipt of some minutes, starting with the Finance Committee of November 14th. Go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
Move the receipt of Finance Committee meeting minutes of November 14th.
Okay, moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Yep, discussion, go ahead.
Just a point to raise, well, maybe it's in line with what Rick was commenting about. The minutes under number 4, business arisings, partway through say, once the survey is complete, Councillor Gray will engage with PINA Sustainability, and a report to council will come forward through a new Environment and Natural Areas Committee. We're actually engaging with PINA consultant before the survey is complete to talk about the survey. So to really clarification, we don't need to change the minutes. At this point, I guess they've been approved at finance.
Yep.
So.
You can, right up to this point, you can amend them, Councillor Gray. That's why they're on yeah, go ahead.
The minutes are just for receipt, so we can have them amended when they come for comments.
Okay. Okay, move receipt.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, did I call the question? No, I didn't call the question. I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So the Community Planning Committee minutes of November 21st. Go ahead.
I would move receipt of the Community Planning Committee minutes of November 21st, 2022.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. Discussion. Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. The Environment and Natural Areas Committee.
I'll move adoption or receipt of these minutes.
Moved by Councillor Gray, receipt, seconded by Councillor Shukin. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And the Public Works and Protective Services.
Move receipt.
Moved by Councillor Epp, seconded by Councillor Gray. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And the Board of Variance. Go ahead. Anybody?
I would move receipt of the minutes from the Board of Variance meeting on November 8th, 2022.
Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Gray. Any discussions? This is probably a new item for a lot of people. We have a Board of Variance here at the District of Metchosin. Anybody else want to comment on those? No? I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So the Mayor's report on page 23 of your agenda package.
Mayor Little, sorry.
Yep.
I think somebody has their mic still on. Is that?
Somebody has what?
Their microphone's still on. I think there's that noise.
Just let me get some clarification.
If everybody just wants to check to make sure their mics are off, and then help with the feedback.
Everybody give your microphone a little gentle tap. Councillor Gray, is your mic off?
Turn it on.
Off. Great. Okay. Can you hear anything? No. Okay. Great. Okay. Moving on to the.
It is.
What? Say it again.
Feedback.
We're getting feedback.
What's this? How do we turn that off?
Pair of scissors.
Okay. Are you getting feedback now? No. Okay. Talking about microphones, there's a new microphone at this position. If you can hear me better, no? No, you can? No, you can't. Okay, so I will move a little bit closer. Is that a bit better? Okay. And I don't want to blow you out of the room. And also we're getting new microphones and a center microphone, just to let you know. Okay, Mayor's report. I'd like to release closed meeting resolutions of November 14th in-camera meeting. Ask committee member appointments. It was moved and seconded by Councillor Gray and Epp that Council appoint Annie McKinnon, Gary Fletcher, and Anna Hall to the Metchosin Environmental Select Committee for a 2-year term. Secondly, release of closed meeting resolutions from the December 5th, today's in-camera meeting. Citizen appointees to the Advisory Select Committee, to Advisory Select Committees. This is the Metchosin Environmental Advisory Select Committee reappointments. Bill Cave, Aaron Vanwater, Rick Perron, and Marilee Hone. The Select Committee of Parks and Trails Advisory Committee, Mr. Ron Aubrey. These are reappointments. People are already in terms, but this is the reappointment. I'd also like to acknowledge Jacqueline Clare from the Metchosin Environmental Advisory Select Committee, Tom Henry from the Agriculture Advisory Select Committee, Bobby Mitchell from the Agricultural Select Committee, and Adam Weir, who was our Trails Coordinator for the Parks and Trails Advisory Select Committee. I'd like to acknowledge all 4 of these for their outstanding volunteer service on our select committees. They've chosen not to be continuing with those, but I would like to thank them for their service. We will be placing advertisements in the January issue of the Metchosin Muse for the Heritage Committee and the Health Committee, the Heritage Advisory Select Committee and the Heritage Advisory Select Committee, and that will be a call for any other volunteers in the community. Okay? And then carrying on with my mayor's report, which is on page 23 of the agenda. We have, number one, we've had strategic planning sessions. As many of us have promised, they've begun. We've had a one-day strategic planning session. This is by no means the end of it. We will continue those discussions, but it was a very healthy and fulsome discussion. More of this will be on the community planning portfolio of Councillor Shukin. So he'll be updating you on that. So there's no request to the council at this time. The Finance Committee, the 2023-2024 budget discussions have now begun at the district. This process usually begins in November. Admittedly, because of the election, we're a little bit behind. We'll be holding meetings and or workshops depending on how the finance chair wants to structure that, with guidance from the District of Metchosin Chief Financial Officer and interim CAO. So more details on this will be provided by Councillor Donaldson on her Finance Committee. In terms of engagement and open discussions, I will be holding a Mayor's Open House every month in the municipal chambers from 2 to 4 on the second Tuesday of every month. I did say that it will be December 13th, but there's something happening in here on December 13th, so I'm moving that to the December 20th. So everybody's invited to come and have a cup of tea and talk about anything, realizing that not everybody wants to come to council meetings and not everybody feels comfortable coming to the microphone. Everybody's welcome at these tea gatherings or coffee gatherings. Moving on to my third item, I just wanted to give you a wee smattering of what I've been up to since the night of November 7th, which was our inauguration night. So I and other councillors have been involved in community events such as the Remembrance Day ceremonies. We've had district meetings with staff. I've been to CRD meetings as our appointee to the CRD, and they've been every week since November 7th. I've been to appointment meetings as well, strategic planning meetings, as well as benefits. I just wanted to clarify that the one benefit that I went to, which is called Another Brick in Nepal, I said, well, but I was thinking Pink Floyd. No, sorry, Another Brick in Nepal. I paid for those contributions and the ticket through my personal finances. It wasn't a district event, but it was a wonderful event. And with that, any other questions, comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a couple of questions. About the Mayor's Open House, that's I take it the idea is to get opinions and feedback and other opportunities for public participation. And I'm just wondering, of course at council we're all here and we hear what the input is together. And are you thinking that councillors would join you at the Mayor's meeting? And if so, some of the public may not know, but 3 members of council can't meet together to move an issue along a spectrum of decision making. So we're sort of limited to meet unless there's minute taking and all that kind of thing. So should we exclude ourselves from the get-togethers?
No.
Or how will we work that?
No,
the procedural sort of stuff?
No, that's not the intent. The intent, as I mentioned, is everybody is welcome. It's not a forum for decision making or policy setting. It's an opportunity for the public to come in and talk and bring about their issues, but no decisions will be made, no policies will be set. We could have all the councillors there if you so choose. Everybody's welcome.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we get that kind of input or feedback, will you bring that to council, to the council chamber for us to talk about, or how will we convey the information? I know it's one of the roles of the mayor to do so.
Yeah, I think, well, I'll try and take notes. I think me taking actual minutes might impede the conversation and defeat the whole purpose of the meeting. But I'll take notes, yeah. But everybody's welcome to attend.
Thank you. My second question was about the Rising Economy Conference. Mm-hmm. And I took a look at that. I decided not to go. It's, what seemed to be like a public-private partnership, First Nation partnership. And I think we know from some of those things they don't, I don't know about the Rising Economy group. There are not a lot of examples on the website of the sort of things that they've done. But public-private partnerships often are about taking public money and transferring to private hands. And in the research materials I've seen, it doesn't really end well for the public in terms of costs. Can you tell us a little bit more about the meeting? And then those people have asked to meet with us here in Metchosin, I guess at a council meeting. Are there like particular corporations that are interested or that we might benefit from, or what are we thinking about? Mm-hmm. What was it about?
Yeah, so I only attended the workshop that we were invited to, which was the night. I was particularly interested, and it's too bad that you weren't there actually, because the keynote speaker was Dr. Homer Dixon from Metchosin. So he's from Metchosin. He's a well-recognized climate scientist. He had an absolute fabulous presentation, which should have been recorded. And so you will be able to see that when they have, I looked on the website, but it's not up there yet. There's a whole bunch of YouTube channel videos from their past conferences you can see. So it was well worth going to. And that was great to make that personal connection with him. He's also, it was announced that night, he's been banned from Russia. So he, along with other people in the world, have been banned from Russia. So it shows his significance in the global community, and so that's one of the reasons why I attended it. And also, I just because it is public, private, or otherwise funding, it doesn't mean I'm not going to go just to hear them out. And I don't know a lot about the group. We, as Metchosin, we don't belong to the group at this time. It was organized by Sydney, Colwood, and another council, but we don't belong at this point. I remember when this came up on council, and Sherry might be as well, we thought that it was a little bit too much for Metchosin given our budget, but we might want to reassess that. And so that's why we would be inviting them back for another presentation so that all of council could comment on that, the current council. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just, Sue-Lynn, did you want to add anything to that? No. Okay, Sue-Lynn and I were there. Okay, thank you. Where am I? Okay, that was the end. Does anybody else have any other comments?
Mayor Little. Sorry, I just wanted to say thanks very much for your report. It's most interesting to see a written mayor's report. We didn't get a lot to. We didn't see many of these in the previous 4 years, so
okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay, I'll be providing more if I have something important to say. Okay, great. Okay, saying that, let's move on to the business arising. This is on page 25 of your agenda package. Okay, this is to do with the finance meeting. Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I'd like to use my focus. Thank you. Forgot that loss. I'd like to make a motion from the November 14th finance meeting that the finance committee receives the 2023 West Shore Parks and Recreation Society budget for information and recommend council approve the budget.
Okay. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Okay, discussion. Call the question, all in favor? Oh, did you want to, no, okay. Okay, opposed, and motion carried. Okay, moving on to the recommendations, 7B. This is page 57 of your agenda package. Okay, Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Mary Little. Metchosin residents who've been following our first council and standing committee meetings will know this council is united in the need for municipal governments and local communities to prepare and be prepared to survive in a climate and biodiversity crisis. We can't escape it. The people of Metchosin need to get prepared and stay prepared for an ever-changing climate and extreme weather events coming our way. We need to cut back our emissions too. So we have a motion here that was approved at the Environment and Natural Areas Committee for us to review, and I'd like to move this evening, and I'll follow that with a small amendment. I'd like to move that Council adopt the following declaration on the climate emergency and biodiversity crisis. Whereas climate change and the planetary biodiversity crisis are real, human-caused, and global emergencies that require immediate, rapid, and large-scale cuts in greenhouse gas emissions, and whereas British Columbia has experienced flooding disasters with loss of livestock and widespread destruction of infrastructure, and whereas British Columbians have died in landslides and catastrophic damage has been done to BC's highway infrastructure following climate-related atmospheric river rainfall events, and whereas there are 94 bird species that are highly vulnerable due to climate change in British Columbia alone, and whereas 600 British Columbians lost their lives in a climate-related heat dome and the town of Lytton burned to the ground, and whereas rural communities worldwide often face immediate and severe consequences of climate change, and whereas municipal governments can and should make decisions and adopt policies, including budgets and bylaws, that will accelerate and significantly increase the scale of greenhouse gas reductions, both of the district itself and of the broader community. And whereas the municipal governments can and should make decisions and adopt policies that will prepare the community and mitigate climate change and negative climate-related events, be it resolved on this 5th day of December in the year 2022 that the District of Metchosin, 1, recognizes the global climate emergency and biodiversity crisis, 2, will promptly adopt a climate action plan to inform future decision-making, and 3, commits to make decisions and adopt policies accordingly. If I could have a seconder, then I'd just like to make a quick amendment.
Moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion.
I'd like to move an amendment to the motion. I move to amend the main motion by adding the words "and adaptation measures" to resolution number 2. So that the resolution number 2 at the bottom of your page would now read, "The District of Metchosin will promptly adopt a climate action plan to inform future decision-making and adaptation measures." So I'll just explain why, if I could have a seconder for that amendment.
I would second.
Thank you, Councillor Shukin. I'm asking Council to add the words and adaptation measures to the resolution to emphasize Council's intention that we aim to be a climate-resilient community. Since the Environment and Standing Committee met, the federal government just kicked in $1.6 billion spending with their national adaptation strategy to create a more climate-resilient Canada. The money is for building resilient roads, bridges, and other infrastructure, healthier communities, enhanced biodiversity and nature conservation, and a more climate-resilient economy and workers. So with this amendment to the motion referred from the Environment and Natural Areas Standing Committee, Metchosin would be on the right track. That money is aimed at the provinces and the territories, but of course we hope we might be the eventual recipients of some of those funds as they come down, and we may well need some of that funding to help us.
Okay, so we've got an amendment on the floor. Councillor Gray, Councillor Shukin. Anybody else have any other comments regarding that? I wanted to ask you, what do you mean by promptly? Do you want a timeline, or promptly? Promptly to me means tomorrow. So we know it's not going to be tomorrow. Our climate action plan with PINA sustainability. Right?
Sorry, on the amendment to the motion, the amendment is simply to add the words "and adaptation measures."
Okay. Anybody else have any comments about "and adaptation measures"?
Okay, so sorry, one point of clarification. We're going to vote on the amendment and then vote again on the whole amended document. That's correct, or we? Okay, great.
Okay. Okay, saying that, shall we call the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, now on, yep. Yep, and then we're going to call the question on the main motion. Did you add anything, just a point of clarification, did you add anything to the main motion, or the main motion was what everybody's looking at?
That's correct. I read the motion from the Finance and Environment Natural Areas Committee.
Okay.
Precisely as written, and made the one amendment to add adaptation.
Yeah, I got that. Okay, thank you. So, seeing no other comment? Oh, yes. What?
Yeah, I just wanted to speak in favor of the motion to remind people that on Wednesday, in 2 days, the United Nations Biodiversity Conference, COP15, will kick off in Montreal. Countries from around the world will be meeting to see what can be done at a national and international level to stop the deterioration and decline of biodiversity worldwide. At our last council meeting, we talked about ending old-growth logging to preserve old-growth ecosystems, including the biodiversity that we depend on for life. Almost at the same time, our federal government was arguing that the European Union regulations to curb deforestation worldwide were too burdensome for us. I wanted to add a point of interest and pride for our community. Will O'Connell from Kangaroo Road will be in Montreal calling for an end to old-growth logging in British Columbia at COP15. He's traveling with a very large slab of wood from a 1,000-year-old old-growth tree cut at Fairy Creek, and we wish him well.
Okay, Councillor Shukin.
Thanks very much, Mayor Little. I want to also speak in favor of the motion and the resolution. And again, I'd mentioned this at the previous committee meeting, that the provision that really grabbed me was in terms of rural communities, small communities worldwide, and how they face often immediate and severe consequences. And it's sadly, there is still elements, individuals out there who are denying the impacts of climate, not the causes of climate change. And that is really hard, again, to contend with when you are seeing the impacts to communities, whether they're in Pakistan, Kentucky with floods, California with fires, here with Lytton. So this is a very timely resolution for us to adopt. And yeah, bravo to, again, Councillor Gray for moving this forward. Thank you.
Bravo. And also for Somalia, that's been in the news this last week. Just I had a point of just clarification. The federal dollars, is that in terms of grants, or is that in terms of another structure?
It's just been announced, and I believe it's, I don't know which department it's coming from, but it's a program.
It's a program, so we don't have to apply for it in terms of grants?
We'll hear about that soon, I expect.
Oh, so, okay.
It was just the press release and announcement. I thought, boy, I better let people know about that.
I see. Okay. Okay, so I still have a motion on the table. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done. Let's see. Moving on to page 59 of your agenda package. Yes, this is represents considerable work by our advisory select committee. So let me see. So what you have before you here is a letter. There's a letter included in the parcel, as well as the pinked item from Bev Bacon to take into consideration. I've got a number of points here, but I'll first open it up to council for their comments. Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
Thanks, Mayor Little. So we brought this, council referred this to MEASC, and I want to say a big thank you to the MEASC membership for a high-quality review of the Trans Mountain research agenda and their report. I move that Mayor Little respond to the Christine Trefanenko on behalf of Metchosin Council with a draft letter as circulated, and if someone will second that motion, then I have an amendment to make to the letter.
Why don't you make the motion with the amendment? Okay.
Thank you. Well, it's a very important letter, and I very much appreciate the work the staff has done to put this together for us. And really, it's a totally diplomatic and correct letter in every way. What I'd like to do, though, is make a little bit of a change to it to make it a bit more forceful and show that Metchosin means business. I've got the amendment here in writing, so I'll just hand it out to people, and I've provided it to Tina.
Okay. So for the members of the public that can't, could you read this out, please?
I'm about to do so. Now, this is because as I looked over the materials over the weekend that we got in the agenda package, I realized that we could maybe make this a bit stronger. And then, happily, we all received a note from Bev Bacon today, making kind of a similar point. And then, thanks to Rick Perron, our current chair of MEASC, made the point from the podium today. So in response to all of those things, and perhaps for a little bit of background, in 2016, Metchosin took a resolution to the the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, and then eventually to UBCM, that read as follows: oil tanker traffic in coastal waters. Whereas a crude oil spill could have devastating and long-lasting effects on British Columbia's unique and diverse coast, which provides critical marine habitat and marine resources that sustain the social, cultural, environmental, and economic wealth of coastal communities, including First Nation communities. Therefore, be it resolved that UBCM oppose projects furthering the expansion of tanker traffic through coastal waters and without substantive increases of safeguards in place. That was endorsed by the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, and interestingly, it was put aside by the UBCM. That's the Union of BC Municipalities. But let me explain. UBCM put it aside only because UBCM membership has consistently endorsed resolutions opposing the expansion of oil tanker traffic on the coast of British Columbia. So it's kind of like one more of those resolutions that they've already adopted so many times. So that's kind of where we're at historically. But Metchosin, again, has shown leadership in this by bringing these issues forward to the higher levels to try and influence and advocate at other levels of government. The amendment to the letter that you have before you then would sit after after the third paragraph. So I'm adding a fourth paragraph, and this paragraph would read, it has bullets. Metchosin Council wishes to emphasize, the point here is now we're talking to the Trans Mountain people, so we're saying we accept the report from MEASC, we share the concerns in that report, but Metchosin Council wishes to emphasize that since 2012, the District of Metchosin has opposed, and here's for us to decide tonight, continues to oppose projects furthering the expansion of oil tanker traffic through coastal waters and without substantive increases of safeguards in place. Bullet 2, we want to emphasize that a critical part of research on the fate and behavior of bitumen, the Environmental Assessment Office Condition 35, that has not been addressed adequately in the research work, relates to environmental conditions. While Trans Mountain continues its research, the corporation should acknowledge to the Environmental Assessment Office at this stage that any oil cleanup near our shoreline will be impossible to achieve for much of the year due to winds, waves, and the current along tanker routes in the Strait of Juan de Fuca along our coast and shoreline estuaries.
What was that last little bit that's written in there that I can't read? Say it again.
Along our coast and shoreline estuaries. So Rick made the note that the WCMRC, kind of looking at saying, well, the estuary is important. We're saying it's all important, but that estuary is really a key biodiversity area for us in Metchosin.
Okay, so.
I would second the amendment for discussion.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin, the amendment. Discussion.
Sorry. Yep. One question, just point of information is, where does the date of 2012 come from?
Yeah, I was wondering the same. Is that from the UBCM or is that from a council resolution, or where did you find that?
Yeah, it was in 2012 in September 25th that we brought the motion to the UBCM conference. So I believe it happened here in Metchosin just before that.
In 2012?
Yes, we didn't have time to dig it up exactly the resolution, but I believe it's in 2012, yes.
Okay, can we just be clear about that? I think the dates will be really important for this to make sure that we've got the correct dates. I thought it was 2016, 17.
Oh, no, this is much before that. So I would be happy to change it to for a decade, Metchosin is opposed, if that's preferable.
Okay, how about if we just leave it blank for now, let staff verify it, and then we can move on with that, so we're not caught up here with, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds good. The one thing too is that it works entirely without the date. You could just say the District of Metchosin has opposed.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do believe it's stronger with a date. We just to verify which is the right one.
Okay, which date, that'll be important. Other comments at the table?
It may be longer than 2012 is the point. It's at least 2012, and it may be before that.
Okay, we'll let staff determine that. That's great. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Sorry, I have a comment on a structural element with the letter, not so much the text itself, and I wanted to maybe throw that in, but I don't know whether we should just... We should probably deal with Councillor Gray's amendment right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's deal with the amendment, then we'll bring this back for discussion. Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, let's have a discussion because I also had some comments regarding this. I thought that it would be wise if we could also add a statement, and this is taken from the text of the shoreline study that is actually on our website, and it reads Metchosin's 45. Just to give context to this, that we are the Metchosin Council, the District of Metchosin is interested in this. Metchosin's 45 kilometer shoreline is a vital link between our terrestrial world and the marine ecosystems of the Salish Sea / Strait of Juan de Fuca, providing essential food for a habitat for all forms. I can't read my writing. All habitat for many forms of land dwelling and sea life. And something to the effect that actions now will safeguard measures for future generations. So that was, I thought that was important to show that historical piece. I think that's what you're also looking for, that we do have a document that we are interested in protecting our shoreline. And then I also thought it was important that we not only have these additions, but who we're going to copy this to. I often find that when I write letters, whoever I copied them to, that's what gives it traction. So I would suggest we copy this to the province, to the feds as well, the Transportation Canada, because they are noted in this report, as well as our coastal neighbors, Souk, Colwood, Esquimalt, Victoria, and the First Nations, particularly Shiano. And that was what I would like to have added. Go ahead.
And Marie-Therese, sorry, Mayor Little, I was going to say the very same thing, that the CCs are really important here. The one that I might also add is the Environmental Assessment Office. That's a critical one as well.
That's at the province.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, and also on your note, actually it was on Rick Perron's comments, we could also send a letter to the municipalities that are within our neighbors, and hopefully good neighbors, saying this is what we've done, a copy of our letter, a copy of the exemplary report from MEASC as well, and that may provide them, and it's important to provide them with the word and the verbiage so that they can put it on their agendas if they so choose. So that might be something that the committee could do as well. Councillor Gray.
And maybe I'd just suggest that in terms of the province, the feds, Transport Canada, that would go to the ministers responsible.
We could do that as well. Mm-hmm. Sure.
In terms of who to address it to.
Okay. the minister's responsible for. Sure. Anybody else have any additional comments that they'd like to see on this letter?
Mayor Little, I'm good with any comments on the letter. I did want to make just a few comments about the work and the study itself, but
Okay.
we can
Okay,
do that
just
after.
let's deal with the letter and then we'll move on to that. And I'm just going through my notes, and everybody else wrote notes too when Mr. Perron was talking regarding the, he made 6 points. Letter, accident, high seas, that was covered. Okay, let me just break with tradition and ask the member of audience, Rick, could you go to the mic and answer my questions? Was there something else that you wanted us to address here?
Yeah. Thanks for that. Now, those waters, if I'm not mistaken, are federal waters and not provincial. And so I believe going through the UBCM and the province may not have the impact unless we had them on our side. And then we talked to the feds about find appropriate people that we need to contact there.
Okay.
I don't imagine that they really care that much
And that
about
would,
our waters out here, but
that would be Transport Canada, but also I would think that the environment, the Ministry of Environment as well. Go ahead, Councillor Gray.
If you can leave it with Tina and I, we'll dig around, but I think it'll be the Minister of Industry.
Industry,
And
okay.
it may also be the Minister of Environment, so sounds like we're prepared to blanket the place, so we'll do so.
Okay. Okay, that's great. So ordinarily, we wouldn't reach out during a council meeting after the public participation. We wouldn't normally take questions from the public at that point. But specifically, I asked Mr. Perron to approach the mic, and I think that's just fine. Otherwise, we'd have to come back to another council meeting to address that, and I thought it'd be better to do it now. So, okay, so that's why I did that. So, where are we? Yes,
I think
there was no motion actually for my comments, as well as copying and for any of your comments. Did we want to make a motion to that effect? I think that would be better. Yeah. Okay, so I can move that. I will move that the comments that I read regarding the report that we have on the website regarding Metchosin's 45 kilometers of coastline, referring to the report, providing a link be included. I also move that we copy it to the agencies that we had already noted. Councillor Gray is going to liaise with the staff regarding that. I also said stronger wording, but I think you've addressed that in your comments there. So those two things. So I've moved that. Could I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Gray, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Gray. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, next. Did you want to?
Thanks, Mayor Little. I just wanted to pass on a big vote of thanks to MIASC for the excellent work that they've done on digging into this report on all the research that apparently is being done. Some of the findings are like incredibly shocking actually,
yeah,
in
that's the
terms
word
of the
I would use.
research around, as Rick was saying, about the use of fresh water as opposed to salt water. And of course, it has been known for some time, but it really came home to me in this report about the limitations of oil cleanup efforts, and even in modestly windy conditions, as has been noted and documented in here.
Yeah.
So, again, I think this is worth, as we're doing here, is worth sharing. And it would also be interesting if the media might pick this up as well. I think it's a story worth telling. And TMX is a big machine. Unfortunately, we own it as taxpayers, but it is a big machine. And I think sometimes there's an effort to just grind through a condition, and based on what MIASC is finding, that condition is 35 is not being met as it should be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just also want to thank, and I think on behalf of everybody at the council table, that the report was very fulsome, very interesting, shocking. I would use that word as well. And so we could pass on those thanks to the Metchosin Environmental Committee through Councillor Gray. And I had one other thought, and it went out my head, so go ahead.
I'll do that. And I'll just mention the wording that I've provided is quite specific, because the typical thing that will happen to our comments is that they be thrown in the wastebasket, because they're really asking us only about the behavior of bitumen.
Bitumen? Uh-huh.
Yeah. And what we're doing is we're saying, well, if you want to talk about the behavior of bitumen, you've got to talk about the environment within which the bitumen will be spilled. And so we're pushing in that direction to try and corner people into a proper response to meet the concerns of the committee and that we've expressed tonight. So thank you.
Okay. Councillor Epp.
I just really appreciate the work of the committee. I know in reading the Trans Mountain report, it was just so wordy and convoluted, and I so appreciate them going through and picking out all the details and actually coming up with all this information, which is really wonderful to have. So thanks to that committee.
And I'll make assurances to the Metchosin Environmental Advisory Select Committee that this document will be saved in our archives for future reference. Councillor Donaldson, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I wanted to also say that I appreciated the time and effort that Miask has put into this. Clearly, there's some great resources that we have in our community. This letter and the amendments to it is definitely much more strong. It is more strong, and spreading it wide and far is incredibly important. You know.
Okay.
Yeah. Hopefully, to have an impact for sure, put us on the map.
Okay. Okay. So with that, we'll move on. Okay. Thanks very much. Great discussion. So point number 8 on your agenda package, this is on page 115. This is a report to council from the Deputy Corporate Officer. This is council appointments for reconsideration. These are the, let me just read this. In accordance with Section 131 of the Community Charter, the mayor may require council to reconsider for reconsideration of a matter if it is within 30 days following a meeting. At its November 8th special council meeting, council appointed Mayor Little to the Greater Victoria Library Board for a 1-year term. At the same meeting, council appointed Councillor Steve Gray to the Capital Region Housing Trust Fund Commission for a 2-year term, and Councillor Jay Shukin as council liaison to the Metchosin Producers Association. The draft 2023 Council Standing Advisory Committees and Council Liaison Structure Chart show an unequal distribution of council appointments to various committees, commissions, and wards. To ensure parity amongst council members, the mayor is requesting that council reconsider and recommend that council appoint Councillor Donaldson to the following: to the Greater Victoria Library Board for a 1-year term, the CRD Regional Housing Trust Fund for a 2-year term, and Metchosin Producers Association as the council liaison. Should a change in appointments take place, staff would advise the respective committee, commission, and board of the change. So I'm recommending option number 1 for this to the committee. Do we have any comments? This was in retrospect, I admit, but I do have that within my perusal. The council chart is on the second page, on page 116. And as I was referring to it, I realized when we reshuffled and negotiated, re-examined the appointments that in error, and it was my error, that Councillor Donaldson wasn't given as many appointments as others. And so that was the impetus behind this whole report to council. Okay, what say ye? You have any comments?
Mayor Little, I would move that we take up option number 1, that council reconsider the appointments made at the special council meeting of November 8th, 2022 to the Greater Victoria Public Library Board, the CRD Regional Housing Trust Fund, and the Metchosin Producers Association, and switching around to, and
Councillor.
Shelley will assume those appointments.
Councillor Donaldson, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Epp, for discussion. Go ahead. Does anybody, yep, Councillor Gray.
Yeah, I just want to say how I appreciate that we're having this discussion on council appointments in a public meeting, and I hope that we would continue that practice. So just looking at the proposal, I'm just at the moment I can see the imbalance there, that there are at the moment Councillor Epp has 7 relationships or committees. Councillor Shukin has 6. Councillor Donaldson has 2. And Councillor Gray has 4 if we remove the alternate positions, which are simply to fill in when someone's away. So it makes sense to me to make the change as you're describing. I just want to point out when we're done, then we'll have Councillor Epp with 7, Councillor Shukin with 5, Councillor Donaldson with 5, and Councillor Gray with 3.
Okay.
So I'd like to suggest, or I'd like to amend the motion to add something to this. It's not stated here, but just as a way of remedying the imbalance that will occur if we proceed, I'm going to suggest that we do 2 things. But it's not stated here, but I'm sitting on the Mary Hill Committee, the Mary Hill Steering Committee, and I'm also on the Mary Hill Finance Committee. And if I add those 2 committees in as council appointments, I'm there now, I'm just, we can confirm that, then that lifts me up in terms of it makes it more balanced again, just to be clear about that. And then the other thing I'm wondering about is that we maintain the terms that we've agreed at both meetings throughout the course of our term. So a number of these committees are 2 years, some are 4 years, all that kind of thing. Thank you.
So I'm just going to ask for clarification on the Mary Hill Standing Committee. We have this interim CAO and the mayor on that. And that, is there another position open on that?
I'm on it now.
Just you're on it now?
Yes. I'm on the steering committee. I'm also on the finance committee for Mary Hill.
Yeah, could we have clarification from the CAO, interim CAO?
Okay. I don't have anything more to add to that, just what Councillor Gray has expressed, that he is currently on both those committees for Mary Hill Committee and the Finance Subcommittee, Mary Hills.
Okay, so there's no change, you're just wanting it noted on the matrix? Okay, yeah, okay, that's fine. Anybody else have any other comments? Councillor Epp.
Yeah, I just did want to add that that right now the 2 select committees that are under, well, the one Heritage Advisory Select Committee is under my name, and the other one is not assigned right now, but those were both my committees in the past, and they are currently inactive, so we're looking into that. So I really don't have those 2 right now. Thanks.
That's right. That's right. They're sort of on hold, on pause, where we're going to go out to the public for membership. That's true. Any other comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, my amendment was also to, go with the terms that are established here throughout for the remainder of our term. And then I want to make the point, Councillor Donaldson, if you go on to the Housing Committee, what I've discovered is that when we arrive at these committees, we haven't necessarily had a discussion around the council as to what our position might be on any particular topic. And so I just want to take a moment to say that we know that the mayor of Esquimalt, the mayor of Saanich, the Mayor of Victoria, and the Mayor of Oak Bay are all supporting the idea that thousands of new units of climate-friendly, non-profit, affordable housing be established near major bus routes and cycling infrastructure, and they are committed to invest in appropriate nearby family amenities. And I think that it would be helpful when you're involved in the CRD Housing Committee that you two, or that we two, support that. It's not, don't need a motion, I'm just wanting to make the point that I think it's something worth doing. That would support the regional growth strategy, support the urban containment boundary, and support Metchosin remaining as a green space.
Okay, just for clarification, this is an appointment to the CRD Housing Trust Fund, not the CRD Housing Committee. So this is the trust fund. So the trust fund deals with different issues, and you'll get a binder and a terms of reference for that. I'm not sure if they will be discussing that. I suspect not, but I don't know. But it's good to be aware of that for sure.
Yeah, I believe it's all about affordable housing. So it's just that, go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. I do have a query. I know this is in draft, as it's stated here. Can you guide me as to where there was the change, or maybe I just didn't read it correctly, of the Maryhill appointments? Because I thought it was just 2 people there.
Yeah. I was confused about that as well, but the CAO said that Councillor Gray is appointed to those. Do you remember when that came about? Was that after our appointment meeting, our in-camera meeting?
I can answer. Mayor Little, you and I met here at this table, and we had a meeting to go over the priorities of the standing committees, and the standing committee that I'm involved in is environment and natural areas. And you asked if I would sit on the Maryhill Steering Committee, and I agreed to do so. And then subsequently, when I was in touch with the Maryhill Steering Committee people to ask about the schedule, they said you should be on the Finance Committee. I said, what does it involve? And they said, we'd like you to be there. And so I joined that committee as well.
I see. I think that the second one should come to council for consideration. I don't know if that was the correct process. Let's go to staff, get clarification on the process to make sure that's okay.
Okay, what's in the motion, or it's in my amendment, I suppose, and you can either
so did you want us to
fail?
vote against the motion, or what did you want us to do? I would like to bring this back to staff for clarification, so we're not in the position of re-amending at a future meeting a motion. So.
Well, I'm a bit surprised that you can't remember asking me to sit on the Maryhill Committee.
No, I remember that. I just wasn't I remember that precisely, actually, Councillor Gray. I wasn't privy to the conversations with the Maryhill Standing Committee and the Finance. So I'm unsure about that. I'd like to have clarifications to move forward so we're not in the position of amending that in the future. Okay, so you would like that on the motion because I'll be voting against that because I want to go to staff for clarification.
I don't mind how you vote. That's your decision. I put on the table that in order, the reason expressed in the briefing document, the reason why you're requesting the change of committees is because the numbers didn't add up. So I'm showing you that the numbers don't add up. If you do it, what you're doing is you're reducing my committees down to the level of what you're not satisfied with Councillor Donaldson's work. One of the issues that we have here is that we don't actually know the workload of these committees, and we're talking about them as if they're all equal or something. I'll just point that out. But if it's a numbers game, I'm saying if we vote in favor, then we're going to have to come back and talk the balance of the committees in another meeting, I suppose. So what I'm doing to save us from doing that is I'm saying, why don't we just recognize that I'm sitting on 2 other committees here that I'm already serving on. I've already been to several meetings of the Maryhill Finance Committee, and that we carry forward, and then I'm happy to vote in favor of both. And I'm asking also that the terms of the committee stay as they are and as they have been agreed.
Okay.
I think that motion's been seconded, and so I'm just waiting for the vote on that.
Yep, we'll have a discussion before we have the vote. Go ahead, Councillor Donaldson.
Yes, I just, how we came to having I don't want to use the word inequality, but an imbalance of the assignments. There was great emphasis on how the finance portfolio was going to be this year, which is why we departed from what we've done in the last 2 or 3 terms in taking having finance stand alone. We're in a financial crisis, so as it were, not just here in this municipality, it's everywhere, but certainly this year with our policing, et cetera. So there was a lot of time to be focusing on that, and as we went through all of the different assignments, it came up a little bit short. There were a couple of other reasons for that for this year, for sure. I have no problem with Councillor Gray keeping the housing one. At all. Certainly the Producers Association fits in with my agriculture portfolio. So that's a natural, and I don't remember what the other one was. So if we want to make a balance, I'm okay with him keeping the housing one.
Okay. Is that your issue, Councillor Gray? You don't want to give up the Housing Trust Fund? Is that the real issue? Did you want us to strike that off?
No.
No? Okay.
No, I'm trying to support the motion, and I'm saying only just a recognition of council that I'm sitting on 2 other committees, and then it all works out nicely. So I'm not, I'm trying to support the motion from happening and trying to put in there what I think is a reasonable thing to make it all happen.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the reason why, I can't really talk about what we talked about the last time around, but I might offer that it might be wise to hold back on the farmers market appointment, because there's some discussions between the farmers market, the Equestrian Society, and the museum about a border and work on that site, and whether or not there's some conflict in terms of Councillor Donaldson's previous involvement with the Equestrian Society and then being involved in that negotiation, liaising with another group. I don't know. We kind of settled the way it was, but the proposals come back to say, no, let's proceed. I'm happy to support it if that's the wish of the remaining part of council.
Okay, so I'll speak to that. That was within my portfolio. So the current negotiations are between the Metchosin Equestrian Society and the Museum Society. Councillor Donaldson resigned from the president of the Equestrian Society, so she has no conflict there. What is on the agenda is Councillor Donaldson, liaison for the Metchosin producers or the farmers market, so she has no conflict there.
Well, I think a number of us are aware that the Metchosin Producers Association are potentially part of the solution to the issue that is confronting us there. So they'll be players.
Yep, but there's no conflict of interest.
I'm not suggesting conflict of interest. I was saying a conflict in terms of how it all works out.
Yeah, I think what we're dealing with is a conflict of interest. Go ahead, Councillor Shukin.
So I have to ask, what is the motion we're now considering? And if at all possible, I would like to go back to seeing if we can deal purely with the motion that I put forward, which is the appointments going to Councillor Donaldson. And I have to be honest that this is the first I'm hearing about Councillor Gray being on the Mary Hill committees. I have no issues with that, but I think there's maybe more of a process we might consider with that, and probably they should be separately addressed.
Oh.
So I would suggest if a motion has been made or an amendment to the motion I made, maybe we withdraw that and just vote on this one, and we can bring the appointments of Councillor Gray to Mary Hill back in another time.
I think that's best. Then we can get some information to from staff on the process, and we'll bring that up. That'll be a promise to you. So let's vote on the motion that was put on the table by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor, who seconded that?
Point of order. You have to deal
What's your
with,
point?
there's an amendment on the table.
Well, actually, there's amendment on the table, but that would be for the original mover of that to do, right? So
The amendment was just moved, so if Councilor
I thought there was a seconder.
Yeah, it wasn't, so there was you moved the amendment. Who seconded it, Councillor Gray?
I'm not sure that I No.
Okay, so did we have a seconder for the Councillor Gray's amendment to the original motion? Actually, can we just deal with the first motion, the first motion on the table? That would be cleaner. Let's deal with the first,
Well,
okay?
sorry, just sticking to process. That would require Councillor Gray to remove or withdraw his amendment. Or otherwise, we have to, if it doesn't have a seconder, okay, great.
Okay, so the motion on the table proposed by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson, I believe, or was it Epp? Okay, Councillor Epp. More discussion, or can we move on to calling the question? Let's call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Opposed by Councillor Gray, so noted. Okay, so let's deal with your amendment. Do you want to withdraw it, or do you, I think that would be best if we
There's
can
no
move it.
amendment on the table.
Okay, there's no amendment on the table.
Mayor Little, I would make a motion that the appointments to the Mary Hill committees be brought back to staff for clarity, between staff and yourself for clarity, and report back to council at the earliest possible moment.
Thank you for that. Okay, moved by Councillor Shukin, seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Discussion.
Are you asking that I be taken off the Mary Hill Committee?
No, absolutely not. I'm trying to get clarification on the process, okay? So we do this right. I'm not asking that. I'm asking to give us some time to look at the process, to evaluate, and then come back. We'll come back to council with the process. Since this had occurred outside the appointments, I would like clarification from staff. I'm proceeding cautiously. Okay, so there's a motion on the table. I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Gray and Councillor Epp opposed. Okay, motion carried. Let's move on. Okay, item 8B on page 119 of your package regarding the closures, the municipal hall closures, the 2022 holiday closure. So this is precedence that in past years, the District of Metchosin councils have opted to close the municipal hall through the holiday season from noon on the last business day of Christmas and remain closed until the first business day of the New Year's. The matrix is outlined here. The option for council consideration are these three. You've had some time to digest this. What would you like to say? Go ahead, Councillor.
I move option 1.
Okay, is that a motion?
I would second.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Councillor Gray, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Discussion? If not, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so then we'll move reports for information. If you turn now to page 121 of your council agenda, we have the monthly bylaw and animal services report. We can remove for receipt of the information. Okay, go ahead.
I would move receipt of the CRD bylaw and animal care services monthly report, October 2022.
Okay, and seconded by Councillor Donaldson. Did everybody have any questions regarding this, comments? Go ahead.
On page 125, you can see way down the bottom there, miscellaneous. Year to date is 19. Last year to date was 1. I'm just curious what is included in miscellaneous, or maybe a better question is this a coding change? I see the totals are roughly the same in the year-to-date numbers, 258 at the bottom and 253. So it suggests to me that the 19 or so, or the 18 other ones are sort of distributed out. Is that what happened, I wonder?
Yeah, I don't know that, and I doubt whether staff will either, but we can ask that question and get back to you on that. Anybody else have any comments? No? Okay, so I'll call the question, receipt of that for the public communications report. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and now we have the building, this is the District of Metchosin Public Communication Report on page, oh yeah, that was on page 125. That was the next one, actually. So move receipt of that one that you were talking about, Councillor Gray. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. And the comment that you made was for the public communications report. Any other comments?
I don't need an answer to that, thanks.
Oh, you don't need an answer? Okay. Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Moving well along to the District Metchosin Building Inspection Report. So these are all reports that are provided to you just to see really where our money goes, where we are spending our time and our money. So if I could have a motion to receive this report. Moved by Councillor Donaldson, seconded by Councillor Shukin. Okay, discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, and then correspondence, we've already noted Bev Bacon's correspondence. There is no other correspondence that I know of. Let me just check. No, there wasn't. Okay, great. No bylaws, no other business. Question period. If this is before 9:30, which it is, we have a 20 minutes max. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask Council? Seeing none,